Welcome back to another creative experiment with me, Tammy Collins. Today we're going to look at my creative journal and do a collage experiment. Now, I got to tell you, this is very vulnerable, right? So this is a little journal that I made. It came originally as sort of a black generic, sketchbook, and I created some things and decoupaged and collaged and whatnot on the cover. And here we're just looking at some swatching, which is what I originally started this book out as, to keep a record of swatches and test pens and paints and that sort of thing. And as it is, things happen and you move on. And so I then wanted to experiment with what certain papers that I was printing and doodling on would do when they were applied to other paper. And so this journal has become sort of a testing ground for experimenting with that. So you're looking at some of my creations that have started as jelly prints and then had doodling and just whatever I was inspired to do created on top of it. And then I've added them into this book. Some of these I love. I love the way they came out, and some of them I'm not sure what I was thinking at the time, but that's okay, right? That's the whole point. So this feels a little vulnerable. I feel a little bit like I'm showing you inside my messy stuff and things that maybe aren't so polished and finished or the way I would like to have them look, which is okay. I guess you need to see that. So like right here, this one, I don't know what I was thinking with this. I don't know. I wasn't vibing those last two at all. Anyway, what I'm going to now do is experiment with mixed media collage. It's something I'm really interested in, and I want to spend more time playing around with. Here's some older pieces of things that I stuck in there. I'm just kind of showing you into my creative journal, if you will. Anyway, I want to experiment with a mixed media collage piece. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just am going around and pulling some things that kind of speak to me. I'm going to use matte medium. I love matte medium. And I'm just going to create a collage. Here's some things that I pulled that were just speaking to me. I have some thread. I have some vintage, wool. I think this is wool, like yarn. Some vintage lace. An old vintage pattern. These are newer words. Just inspirational words and quotes. This is a piece I love. It's a napkin that I've encased. You can watch other videos to see how I did that, but the texture of that's amazing. Those are just some little, this is a game. These are from a game. This is a cut off piece from a paper. This is a tear out, or actually it's a fallout. This is a book, Black Beauty, that's completely fallen apart, and I'm just taking some pieces. I love butterscotch. I don't know. I just have that there. These are just some pieces that I like, that feel, I don't know, they're speaking to me today. That's how I do most of my stuff. And I think that's a big point that I want to get across and teach. If you're here and you're listening, learning to just play around with the sparks of things that excite you is what grows into great work, right? So if you feel ignited by it, you pick it up and you touch it, or it calls to you, you take it and you play with it, and it leads you down a path. That repetition of constantly following that path, that spark, is what leads to better and better work. It's a very difficult thing to embrace and learn to trust. And as you'll see, I do this piece here, and ultimately I'm not crazy about it. I don't even think it has good composition. Ultimately, I don't think there's a lot good about this. But it's okay. I played with it. You can see here how, some of these things were really speaking to me. And this game piece, it's the texture and the pattern that's on the certificate or whatever that's supposed to be. And so I'm just going to play with it. I'm just going to try to listen. Like I said, I really, if you followed me, you know that I talk a lot about previous perfectionism issues. And so I think this is what collage really challenges for me, is letting go of all of that stuff and just learning to allow it to evolve. I think here this is looking good. This started out well. I think I went too far. I got frustrated, and then I felt the frustration sort of taking over instead of staying in the joy and the spark. And I think that might be a really good message as well, is to make sure that the spark, the emotion that you're feeling is good, and lean into those. And when they're not good and they're not, it becomes frustration, or you need to either walk away from it, or get new materials or get something else to bring the right spark back. And that's probably what I should have done here. I think I started out good, which I think you'll see, but I think I get off track pretty quickly. But that's okay. Again, this is what I kind of call my junk journal. I'm just playing around. I'm exploring ideas, and being very vulnerable and sharing that with you. I hope that you glean something from my lessons and my experimental play. So I'm just using the matte medium, and I'm applying things here. I did speed this video up just slightly, and I will cut out some parts just where it gets a little monotonous, just because I don't want to bore you. Now, I do love this particular piece here that I'm gluing down now that kind of looks like a giraffe print. It's actually a napkin that I took apart. Napkins have multiple ply layers. I took it apart, and I basically encased it in a matte medium, and it changes the texture. It makes this very thin, fragile piece have this amazing feel to it, and it's actually a little crinkly now, and it's not perfectly flat and smooth. I'm very obsessed with that. I want to do more work around that encasing of tissue paper is the best way I can think to explain it. I wanted this sort of vintage black and white ink print of the horse, and I just kind of wanted all of those elements as the focal point. And I think that kind of got lost. I'm not sure what happened. I think so far I'm doing well. I'm happy with it, but I don't know. I think I forced elements. I don't know. You'll see. You be happy to share with me in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say and what your thoughts are on it. Like I said, collage is something I want to explore more, and this was just an attempt. It's an experimentation, and again, tissue paper. These are jelly prints that I've done. I love the texture and the feel, and now this feels sort of grungy and different, and something about it I wanted to incorporate into this piece. And then I thought I really liked this sort of pop of red And I think this might have been where I went awry. I don't know. I think I was trying to put two different ideas together and it just didn't come out the way I intended. So here I am putting in, this is part of I do a lot of journaling, and I had cut certain pages within the journal, and so I have these strips that just have the date part of the page, and I just thought, and my original thought here was that I would add some notes, and I don't know, I ended up getting away from that. That probably would have been a better idea if I would have stuck to it. There were a couple of things that happened here with this. I had in my mind that I wanted to do this at this particular time and day, and the day's events changed a little bit, and I was determined to still do this and get it in. But in reality, I probably the creative juice was affected by all these other things that were forcing my day to go a little bit different, which is another thing I think is important to learn and lean into. Um, Making sure that you have the time and the space to explore whatever creativity comes. And I think this is a big struggle for a lot of creative people. I think we have to put time limitations or space limitations around what we're doing. In other words, maybe you work a full-time job and you only have 3 hours in the evening or whatever that time space looks like. And so there's this sense of like, I've got to get it done, I've got to hurry up and do it, or whatever that is. And I think that can really impact the final result. And I feel like that may have been what happened here. I really wanted to get this in my day. I originally had a full day wide open with no distractions, no interruptions, or nothing else going on. And then things changed and I had to finish up by a certain time. And so then I was feeling very rushed, and I probably, it's a catch-22. I want the creative time, but now it feels forced and rushed. So that's a big struggle for me personally. When I create, I don't want a boundary for the rest of the day. I don't want anything on the docket. I don't want to have to stop. I don't want to have to be disrupted. I don't want anything at the tail end of that, because I don't know where it's going to go. Same thing, like if I have an appointment or something in the middle of the day, or something else is going on, or I'm working with a client or whatever it is during the day, I have to wait till after all that stuff's done, so that then the rest of the time is open. So if I need to work into the night, I can do that. And that was probably my big mistake here. And I'll bet that this is a big problem for many people. Because once you kind of get into the zone, having to stop and pull yourself out of the zone is quite challenging. And it's kind of like, if you were to jump out of a plane with a parachute, you can't really stop midstream and then get back into the descent of the flight, right? That's kind of what it feels like. And I think that this is a big struggle for many, many creatives. I love a pop of gold, and that was sort of the inspiration behind the Werthers. I don't know. As I look back at this now, I'm more and more unhappy with it. But that's okay. There were points early on that I liked, and I just didn't stop, or not really sure what happened. And maybe that's my message here. It's okay to experiment. It's okay to fail or not be thrilled with the outcome, but I learned some stuff along the way and maybe some things that I would take with me next time. I find collage very intriguing. I love to there are many great artists. I love their collage work, but I struggle to sort of, you know, have a deeper connection with my own pieces. And that's coming from not having done enough of it, for sure. And maybe it comes from I'm not sure what my intended outcome is for my viewer. I'm not sure. I still have a lot to learn here. If you have any tips, feel free to drop them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And, you know, feel free to check out any of my social profiles in the descriptions. You could visit my website. You know, my website's an ever-evolving piece of work, just like anything else, right? There's stuff going on over there. I have a Letters in Color mail club that I'm very excited about. I have some prints and some originals. Of course, you can commission me, and I do creative consulting as well. I do that for individuals, and I also do that for companies. You would be amazed at what a creative perspective brings to things. I also have decades upon decades of experience in marketing, and so that's also a great lens that I have too. So anyway, the point to all that is that I do work with individuals and companies. Not really my message here, but ended up at that place. So these are just little cardboard vintage imagery. I don't, you know, like I said, I kind of got lost along here. I'm trying actually to rush because I've got to leave. And, you know, that was a mistake. I should have just left it alone and walked away from it. I have a tendency to want to finish things, and, you know, I'll keep going. I'm the type of person that if I start taking wallpaper down in a room, I'm there till the wallpaper's down. Which in this case, I think was a mistake. I think I should have, I think some of the inspiration pieces were good. I think my original intent was good. Now I wish I would have added in, I should have stopped after the first few pieces, maybe before I put that journal lined paper piece from a journal in, and maybe added some watercolors or I don't know. Like I said, this is a very vulnerable video, and I'm sharing it because I'm trying to show you that it doesn't always go as planned. Things aren't always perfect. It isn't always what you want it to be. But to just have some fun and explore, right? I mean, you got to try things. So that little piece of paper, their little black and gold thing says, if you're lucky enough to be different, never change. This is some thread. So we've got lots of different materials here. We've got the vintage book page. We've got the vintage game piece. We've got the napkin. We've got vintage lace and thread. We have jelly plate creations, which are both on wet strength tissue paper, and also like a going blank. It's like a jelly. Oh my goodness, I'm totally blank. I'll have to come back to it. It's like exam room table paper. Jeez, We have pieces from the journal where I cut out some of the pages. We have the candy wrapper. We have the little sticker of the quote. I add in later here marker, and we're using matte medium. And then we have the little, they're like little cardboard vintage imagery. So there's a lot of different things going on here. I even use it's sort of like a wax colored crown pencil thing. But so there's lots of things going on. Yeah, I think you can probably even hear it in my voice at this point, right? I really debated about sharing this, but again, it's about showing you that it's okay to just mess around. It's okay to not like the outcome. It's okay to have had a project take a different direction. All of that's completely okay. And if you take nothing else from this video, I hope that you at least take the idea of experimenting, and then it's okay for it to not be what you wanted. Okay, I am a big fan of mark making. It's one of the things that I'm really trying to explore and just really embody. And so, of course, I want to add that into my collage, and I'm trying to just let it do its thing. And ultimately, I don't know. I think I regret this decision as well. But again, it's a process. I'm learning. This is what this whole thing is about. Try things, play with things, explore what they do, figure out what you like and don't like. And I'm sure I'll make 1,000 more collages that I don't like before I make one that I absolutely love. So if we were to do a recap of today, make sure you have the space and time allocated so that your creative flow doesn't get disrupted. That's super important. But on the same token, you don't want to never get the time to create, right? Because that could give you an excuse, right? Oh, I don't have enough time. I can't block off enough time. So you've got to find a balance for that. Learn to listen to your intuition when it's the difference between the joy and the negative, right? And then when to stop and sort of walk away and come back to it. Those are kind of my 3 big lessons, I think, for this video. Now I'm just adding in some mark making things that I like to do, and you'll see in almost all of my pieces. So if you stayed here and watched this, I thank you. I appreciate you. Please let me know in the comments what you think, and what is your big struggle? Do you have a major struggle when it comes to creativity? And do you keep a experimental journal where you can have the not so perfect outcomes, or where you can try new things like I did here with this collage? So that's about it for this. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time in the next creative experiment. Bye.